today, Paul,
Yes.
I thought we'd talk about handheld LCD games.
Now, I think we're both fond of these, aren't we?
Very, very fond in my case.
Yeah. So, have you got a big collection, or is this it?
Not really. No, it's slightly bigger than this.
All right, I'm just wondering.
Not mock the size of my collection. It's not much bigger.
I was just
And
wondering.
in fact, one of the ones I was going to show you today, I can't find it.
Oh.
Which is a shame, because it was possibly the most interesting one, which I will tell you about now.
All right, go on, tell me.
And I'll drop in a picture of it. It's a LCD game with a built-in radio.
That's elaborate.
It's called Game Watch and Radio.
So it's a Nintendo thing?
No.
Oh.
It's some obscure Japanese curiosity.
But it knocked it off and just added a radio.
It had a
in.
little dial on the side, which I'm sure you'll see in the picture now that I'm dropping into the video. And it's a shame I can't find it, but never mind. So you're familiar, of course, with your standard Game & Watches, which were the iconic ones from the 1980s that Nintendo paved the way for the Game Boy.
I was going to say, who invented LCD games? I mean,
Don't know.
these things. I don't know what the origin of them are.
Why?
That's a forthcoming video then. The origins of
LCD games. Let's have a look at that. So that, of course, is
Super Mario Brothers.
This is one of their later ones.
You see, I had a Super Mario 3 watch game.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, that was on the wrist.
Yeah.
In fact, in that clip of me on Games Master, I'm wearing that watch.
Are you?
Halfway up my arm here.
Oh.
Because I wanted to be A, cool, because I thought that was a cool thing to do, and B, I wanted everyone to see that I had a Mario watch.
Mario watch. Did it show up on screen?
No, very briefly. No. Very briefly. I don't know where that watch is to this day. If I've lost it or it's been thrown out, I'd be quite upset.
I haven't got any watches from when I was a child.
No, but that was a special one. I got that when I was poorly, and I was given it as a get well soon present.
Oh.
So what are you doing? You're fiddling with other things now and filming it?
Yeah, no, I'm not filming. I thought it was.
Oh, great. So you weren't even filming that then?
No, I wasn't. I'll hold it again and I'll film
All right,
it.
we'll hold it again. Do you know what's nice about this, about the Super Mario Game & Watch, is that if you want to fast forward 30-odd years, this reminds me so much of the Game Boy Micro.
Yeah, I mean, that was essentially the design template anyway for a lot of their handhelds. I mean, obviously, the double screen ones, such as this lovely Zelda one, is, the forerunner of the DS.
True, that is a very good point. I mean, Nintendo, for some reason, does like their clamshell stuff.
Yes.
Like when they brought the Game Boy SP out, everyone was raving about the fact you could close the lid on it. In fact, if you can get your hands on a Game Boy SP, I always highly recommend it. They can play most of the Game Boy Color and original Game Boy titles, really as well as Advance. And the flat, the clamshell, so they protect the screen. And it's backlit in colour.
Well, funny you should mention backlit and in colour.
Yeah.
Because we also have here Nintendo's Panorama screen Popeye game, which they did a bunch of these. I think there was a Donkey Kong one.
That sounds familiar. That sounds about right.
And it wasn't backlit as such, but what it used was around here you had a transparent screen for the LCD through which light could shine, and then it would be projected onto, well, not projected, but reflected onto the mirror below it.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't create a coloured background. It merely has coloured spots on the background that when the light comes through
it looks like it's illuminated. So it doesn't use bulbs.
No. And it's very effective, though. You look at this Popeye one. It's a very simple game. It's basically like a tug-of-war game, back and forth punching, But it looks really nice.
It looks great, doesn't it?
It looks really pretty.
It's one of my favourite things that I own.
I think you
It wasn't cheap either.
Can I ask how much that was?
90 quid.
90 quid. Well, it goes on to what I was saying. I went to one of those CEX stores.
Oh, yeah.
And they had, not this, but they had one of these called Gold Rush, I think it was.
Yep.
£110 they were selling it for.
Bloody hell.
And I couldn't even tell you if that game was particularly worth 110.
I think, none of them are, let's face it.
No?
I mean, Gold Rush is, I think, considered one of the better examples of the... it was one of the later ones, I think, Gold Rush.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, the reason why I think LCD games, by and large, get a bad rap is because of all the shit that, for instance, Ashens would touch on with the pop stations.
Just lay into Ashens again.
No, we're not laying into it. It's true. He would say it was shit.
Yeah,
all those fighting games or the horrible car racing games where there's not much to it. But even though this is quite simplistic, there's still an element of skill to it.
I love them.
And for this one, the Zelda one, which we haven't really touched on, which is 2-screen, There's gameplay here because you jump back and forth between the two screens. You collect Triforce. There's obviously weapons for you to collect, although it says it's hard to read out, but I managed to make that out as Tomahawk and Water of Life.
Oh.
And the map screen. So there's an element of gameplay to this outside of dodge, kill, or drive.
There is. I mean, there was some of them. There was one that I really liked was Caveman, which I think was a grandstand game.
That was the flat one.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was kind of like that with a little sort of stand-up screen. But a very simple game, but they're great, colourful graphics, very similar to the Popeye Panorama ones where, there's not a lot going on, but they used what they had in quite a creative way.
In very creative ways. I mean, for instance, like, this reminds me of a LCD game that a friend of mine had. It wasn't a Nintendo Game & Watch, but it was like Haunted House, and it was like tall, so it was long. And you had to climb the haunted house level by level, dodge the monster, dodge the skeleton, the mummy, get to the top, kill Dracula, back down to the bottom. But there's enough variety that it felt like gameplay, not just button mashing.
Yes, yeah. Well, likewise with Popeye. The Super Mario Brothers one here actually does a fairly decent job of replicating the gameplay. All right, it's not going to be quite as
thrilling
or
because I don't know if this has power-ups to it. Does it have it, or is it just a scrolling?
It's literally scrolling and jumping to avoid falling in.
Okay.
The blue.
So you could almost say this is like one of the very first kind of speedrunner games. Almost
it's
like
very similar. Yeah. And it's
kickstand.
It's got a kickstand. Well, look at this though. Look, it closes down, and
that's a nice, beefy, meaty thing that looks pretty. That has won me over quite considerably.
It's great.
Actually, that's nice.
Lovely. So, that's what your Patreon money's going on, kids.
So Game & Watch. So they were would you say Nintendo were the leaders of LCD games with all this stuff?
Of course they were, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it was always, remember, last day of term when kids would bring in toys on the last day of term, and I remember someone bringing in, I think it was Mario Cement Factory, which was
is that a dual
screen, but it was one of the ones that opened up the other way. I can't get this open now. Look. Oh look!
And you broke it.
I didn't break it. You told me this. Look, did you know this? Look, Paul found this out.
This is a theory.
This is a theory. Look, behind this, this thing here, tip it open. Look, there's a little hole for some batteries. So spares.
But I don't think they fit because the batteries that work this don't fit in there.
And also there's some glue there, so it looks like that was meant to be glued on.
I actually think what it is the base is one size fits all. So if they didn't need the D-pads, it would just be up and down or something. And like if you were using that's what I think. Oh, it's a place where you can hide tiny sweets.
Or your antidepressants.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So, Game & Watch. There we go.
So,
there are pretenders to the throne.
Yes.
Show us some of these pretenders.
Well, let's start. These are pretenders, but they're interesting pretenders. So this was from Innovator Electronics.
Do you know anything about them?
No, I've never heard of them. And I don't think anyone else ever has.
But what I will say is this. When I looked at this, the first instance was, what a piece of cheap rubbish. And then I flipped it open. I was like,
yeah, look at that. It's a
this?
3-screener.
That's almost unheard of.
Yeah, well, Nintendo never did anything with 3 screens.
No. Can you imagine the board meeting? You've heard of 1 screen. You heard of 2. I'm going to go 3 screens with this.
It's classic kind of Spinal Tap, isn't it? Yeah. What does this game offer?
It's got 1 more screen. It's 1 better.
Yeah.
Triple Arcade, Deadly Journey. So ABC.
It's got all the instructions actually written on it.
Which is handy because a lot of these games don't, and you're just left to guess. But I imagine
a burly man fighting a big snake.
You start off at the top screen, I imagine, or maybe you start there and you work your way up to the top.
The batteries in this one yet. So who knows? We can just imagine.
But it involves. It's a bit like what was it? Pitfall? What's it called?
Yeah, I think it's Pitfall. He looks like you swing across the lake.
So part 1 is move to avoid the rocks.
Oh,
grab vine.
It is at the top.
Grab vine. Yeah, grab vine to cross the river and climb this cliff face to go into the next screen. Dodge rocks and the witch doctor. Ooh, bing bong. And lion to reach the cave. So you've got to go all the way. So I reckon you've got to go that way, cross over, up the ladder.
Yeah.
Cave, and then finally jump snake, grab axe and kill them, dodge the giant snake and reach the treasure.
Wow.
And there's the big diamond there. There's a lot going on there.
It's all right, isn't it?
It's got its own little, I think, quite ugly D-pad.
Yeah, that's well, Nintendo, they patented their D-pad. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Of course you did. Everyone knows that.
But the way how they got around it sometimes to copy it was actually quite interesting. Like I think the Game Gear, I want to say,
put the round, wasn't it?
Well, no, I think the difference was that there was a ball pivot, and on the game Nintendo controller, the pivot was built into the D-pad, whereas what Sega did was put the ball pivot below it, separate, so it was rested on it.
Okay.
And that was like the small little differences that got them around it.
Yeah. Well, look at the PlayStation joypad. They just basically broke it into 4 separate buttons.
And I don't like that.
I don't. I always hurt my fingers.
I like the rocking notion of a good D-pad.
Yeah. I like rocking on our Ds.
Yeah, that's all right. That's a cute little thing.
So it's not the only triple screener. This is actually, I know who made this. This is Bandai. And of course, did a lot of electronics back in the day. So this one is really hard to open. So what you think? Hang on, that's only got 2 screens. But look, it flips down.
Shit, I didn't even see that before.
Yeah, now you're impressed, aren't you?
So second pattern. So there's first pattern, second pattern, and third pattern.
Look at that. So it flips
So
up.
that's your starting point, first pattern. You start there and you have a fight, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And you Godzilla. And then you go, I'm not having any of this. And then you've got
Press your button down there.
And it flips up.
Nice
and then
action,
second pattern, which means the action now goes up there.
Yeah.
And then third pattern, it's back down here again.
Not bad, is it?
I mean, start attack, sound off, on, select, up, catch, down. Yeah, so it's weird that it's directional, up, diagonal, left.
Yeah, up and catch.
So it's not up and down straightly.
But it's nice action, isn't it?
Godzilla as well. So this must have been a big get for Bandai when they made this, because Godzilla would have been huge.
I think they only did.
I mean, he is huge.
Yeah. I think they only did 2 of these triple screen things. There was another one, I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, that Godzilla and one other, King of the Monsters. So there you go.
King of the Monsters.
And Bandai didn't rest on their laurels there.
No.
That came out in 1983. And then you had them release this.
Ooh, what's that?
Exactly. What is that? Pre-Game Boy, it is a cartridge-based LCD system.
Now, did this come out before or after that Milton Bradley one that had like Blockbuster and thing? You know, that big long...
No, that's the Microvision. That was before.
Okay.
Or was it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, yeah, because that was the first one with interchangeable cartridges. No one ever talks about this. The Digi Casse. Yeah.
Digi Casse.
Casse. It's really hard to get the cartridges out. There you go. The actual game is in the cartridge, effectively. You've got the LCD screen. It's the screen itself. You switch out for a new one.
So rather than it be a template, it's an actual switch-outable cart.
Yeah.
But I imagine the basics are the same in that, it's up, down, left, right, jump, or action. So they've probably kept it reasonably simple.
Yeah, well, depending on what the games are. I mean, I have no idea what that says. Obviously, they're in Japanese. But
you can just use Google Translate and figure that out.
What? How am I going to type that into Google Translate?
You use my phone.
How can you do that?
You scan it, don't you? And then it reads it.
You do that?
Yeah, don't you know that? Get with it, Daddy-O. You just hold your camera at it and you highlight it and it reads that and then it translates it to English. So that probably says city worm.
Is that because it's got a city in
there's a worm, yeah.
City Worm, the famous game City Worm.
Well, look, if anyone wants to make a game called City Worm.
What's that one called? Look, that one's got kind of coloured stripes.
Oh, well, then that must be a Battenberg game. Battenberg game.
Super Battenberg Brothers.
Doesn't that sound amazing when you say it out loud?
Battenberg.
Super Battenberg Brothers.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do.
Lord Mountbattenberg.
Or is it just that when I get around you, I use the word Mountbatten a lot, apparently?
Oh, God, we're back to Mountbatten.
This is fascinating. So basically, you swap them out. But was it a bit like the games wizard that we saw where you got the machine and then 3 of these and that was all you got?
No, there were, I think, 6 games in total that were made for it.
Okay.
And, I mean, you have a...
I'm afraid to pull these out because...
Well, yeah, you've got... It's difficult because you've got this sort of back thing here and you kind of want to go like that, but that's actually holding the thing in, so you've got to grip the top and
give it a tug.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. But funny enough, that looks like that thing I got for my phone, which I might talk about
does.
one day.
Yeah, it does look like one of those kind of Game Boy cradle things for.
You slip your mobile phone into it. And this basically uses a card, any old card, doesn't it? But we'll talk about that on another day, I reckon.
Yeah,
it'll be fascinating.
Look. So there you go. There's a few LCD games from my cabinet of curiosities.
And you know what? If I ever come across any in the wild, I might buy them for you and just, build your collection, because I don't know, there's something really beautiful about these. Very sweet. And it reminds you of, like, again, being poor, growing up. I didn't have a Nintendo. I didn't have a Mega Drive. Most of the games I played for the first time that had Mario on was probably something like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So who knows?
There's a sort of innocence about them that is quite endearing, and a kind of, it's just from an era when you weren't kind of bombarded with graphics and stuff. You had to kind of rely on the limitations of what the available technology was, and we were happy,
and we had to use our imagination. It's like we go
Fill
back
in
to
the
that Grandstand 2001.
Yes,
it's asking you to do a lot of imagination on what it's presenting.
Yeah.
But
there we go.
Oh, thank you for sharing your collection with me.
That's not much of a collection.
I'm having that. I'm having that one. I'm having that.
What are you doing? Oh, it's waving back at me.
The minute you get your sausage out, I lose all my strength.
You drop everything.
Right, good.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Mark!